President Trump is attacking another Democratic representative of color. This time it's House Oversight Committee Chairman Elijah Cummings. In a series of tweets Saturday morning, the president called Congressman Cummings a brutal bully and falsely called his Maryland district the worst in the USA. And later said that Cummings' district was a disgusting, rat-infested mess. Cummings' committee is conducting numerous investigations into the president. Most recently, he secured permission to subpoena emails and texts with several administration officials. He's also a frequent critic of the president's policies on immigrations. Cummings responded later on Saturday, and he said, "It is my constitutional duty to conduct oversight of the executive branch, but it is my moral duty to fight for my constituents." Numerous Democrats are criticizing the president's comments. Our Musadiq Bidar asked 2020 presidential candidate Julián Castro about the president's latest line of attack.
This president is absolutely determined to undermine anybody that might bring to light his own breaking of the law. You know, he's trying to undermine Elijah Cummings because of his role in providing oversight and accountability to this administration and the president personally. So it's not a surprise that he's going after him the way that he has gone after the FBI, the CIA, others that may have information that is incriminating for the president.
Musadiq Bidar covers all things Iowa for CBS News as a 2020 campaign reporter, and he joins us now. So, Musadiq, are the president's attacks against congressional representatives of color something that these Democratic candidates are going to be talking about?
Absolutely, Rena. We can definitely expect this to come up on the trail. This was something that was a big issue a week or so ago when the president attacked freshman members of Congress who have since become known as the Squad. I was with Secretary Castro then, and I asked him about his comments on the "send her back" and the chants that came up at his rally. And Secretary Castro then told me they're racist remarks, and he was very strong on that. So it's an issue that I expect that will definitely come up in the next few weeks as candidates come back to Iowa for the state fair. And it's something that we should keep an eye on for the debates as well.
Absolutely. You know, I want to talk to you, though, about the Supreme Court that ruled that the Trump administration can actually use Pentagon funds for a border wall. As you mentioned, you had an interview with Castro. You talked to him. He's made immigration a core part of his platform. What did he tell you?
He called it a terrible decision. He said it sets a bad precedent, and he warned that Republicans celebrating this decision today should think twice about it. He said that a future president could come in and use non-appropriated funds by Congress to fight issues like climate change and gun violence prevention. So overall, he was not very happy with with the Supreme Court decision, but he also warned Republicans that this is something that could backfire on them.
Castro has also been very outspoken about Border Patrol agents, ICE agents. I want to play a bite of some of what you discussed with him.
These folks, a lot of them are out of control. And you have a culture of corruption in these agencies. And they need to be held to account for that. What I always tell people is that whether you're the president of the United States, or you're a governor, or you're a mayor, or you're a police officer on the street, or you're a member of CBP or ICE, the people don't work for you, you work for the people. And everybody in my administration and everybody out on the street should recognize that. You work for the people don't work for you. And so I don't care who you are in public service, you're not above the law, and you're going to be held to account.
So did he tell you, is this a strategy that he thinks will work for him?
It's something that we can definitely expect them to continue discussing on the campaign trail. The issue of family separation at the border is a big topic that continuously comes up with conversations with caucus goers, and it's something that comes up when you talk about immigration with folks. So it's a touching issue. It's something that Secretary Castro wants to talk about. He brings it up in his stump speech, whether it's talking about images of a father and a daughter drowning in the Rio Grande, or a story that we heard about in the last couple of days of a 9-year-old U.S. citizen being detained. So if it's something that voters want to hear about, and it's something that really concerns them about how President Trump has handled this issue, so for Democrat candidates to play up on that issue, it's an opportunity to make a connection with voters, and it's something that we can expect Secretary Castro to speak about as well.
You know, Musadiq, Castro is going to appear in the next debate the second night. He's alongside other candidates, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Cory Booker. Did you talk about strategy? How is he going to go about this debate? His polling isn't doing so well. How does he get out of this hole?
You're right, he's not polling so well. When we talked to him about this, he said his strategy right now is to get his name ID up. He wants more and more people to have him on his radar screens. He doesn't want to just be somebody that they're thinking about. He wants to be somebody that they're considering voting for and supporting, somebody that's going to be in their top three. And so he told me that he isn't so worried about having a spike in support at this time in the summer of 2019 when we're still nearly 200 days away from the Iowa caucuses. And he described his campaign as something that will continue to get stronger and stronger as time goes on. So he's not so worried about polling at this time, but he wants to continue building on momentum that he feels he's built after that first debate.
And as we know, we've seen squabbles among the candidates. Biden says he's going to hit harder, against Harris and Booker. He was criticized for his record on race. Castro also went after a fellow candidate at the first debate, former Texas Congressman Beto O'Rourke. You asked him about if these attacks are just inevitable in the debates and what he might be focusing on. Here's what he had to say.
I wouldn't say people should go on there and attack each other. I would say, number one, that it's fair for people to point out legitimate policy differences. And that's why I was happy that, in that first debate, the disagreement that I had with Congressman O'Rourke was a policy difference. It wasn't a personal back and forth about anything. So I think policy differences are absolutely fair game for people to point out and contrast. What we don't need to get into, though, is anything personal or a back and forth that is only noise and not really speaking to the differences that people have.
She talks about policy differences. Any sort of insight into what he might be targeting at the next debate?
Well, what I got out of that is that he's not scared to go after different candidates on policy issues. Something that he said he expects to come up again is that Section 1325 of the immigration rule, which criminalizes border crossings. He said he understands that there are candidates up there who don't necessarily agree with him on that issue. So he's prepared for that, but he's also prepared to point out policy differences with different candidates. I don't expect him to necessarily go on the personal attack. It's not something that he wants to do, and it's not something that he thinks will play well with voters, but being able to show differences, policy differences, especially with different candidates, is something that he says he's willing to take up.
All right, a lot to watch for next week. Musadiq Bidar, we're grateful that you're covering all things Iowa for us. Thanks for joining us.